Welcome to Nebraska Preps Postgame with your hosts, Mike Sauter and Jacob Padilla.
Welcome back to Nebraska Preps Postgame. I'm Austin Jacobsen. Jacob Padilla is hanging out with us. JP, we are finally here, and it's state championship week and a half. Like, it's yes. A really weird time to say this because for the first time, if you're not an 8-man team or a 6-man team, you get a bye week, kind of, which is kind of nice for some of these semifinal teams.
Yeah, get the extra few days to work on it, but it's kind of weird having the 6-man on Friday and then the rest of the championships not until next week.
Right.
So there's one football game this week.
Yes. Yeah, the NSA trains us pretty well to get used to a football game on Thursday and Friday. So then when they push it to Monday and Tuesday, great venue, great experience, I know. But it does make the pacing of it very odd because we're even going to get like a Husker game on Saturday, and then we turn around, we go to the home of the Huskers. It's goofy, but it's what we're used to, and we're looking forward to it.
I'm just grateful for it because the last few Fridays have been ridiculous.
Why, have you had some conflicts?
Yeah, just a few. Just sitting there at CHI watching streams of like 5 different games while the game was starting at the exact same time. So, yeah, Friday was fun.
Yeah, that was back-to-back Fridays, wasn't it? And then you also had state volleyball on top of it. Like, with the high school and crossover season with basketball, just on the collegiate level, it keeps everything busy. But what did happen, though, on Friday night is all of the matchups that we were kind of expecting to happen through most of the course of the season finally came to a head. And, of course, the biggest one was at Phelps Field.
Yeah, we few of these turned out to be great games. Few of the others were dominant showings, and the Class A game was one of them. The 62, so it was 7-7 after 2 drives. So it's like, okay, open up here. Great job by Westside responding to Millard South. And then it was a 38-0 Millard South run after that.
Yeah, and I think the most important aspect of it, too, was that I don't think it was anything that Westside necessarily could or could not do. It is just the justification that Millard South is exactly where we thought they were. They are a historically great team, and they proved that on Friday night.
Yeah. Jet Tamala, 23 of 34 for 463 yards, 7 touchdowns. Did have the 1 pick, but tied the touchdown record for single game in the third quarter.
Pretty good.
Yeah, they tacked on field goals. But, just and I think we were discussing just kind of the thing about Tamala at the high school. Well, I was talking about it with Robbie, actually. The thing about Tamala at the high school level is like he can make all the throws. And like at the high school level, like there's certain things like you can't take away everything. You're trying to make it to you take away the easiest throws and then hope that they can't make the tough ones. Well, he can make the tough ones at a really high rate as well. Like you're not going to be able to take away everything, especially with the weapons that he has to throw to, the protection that he has. There's just not a whole lot anybody can do to slow down that attack.
Yeah, they're
at that level.
They're the perfect storm of the elite pocket presence, a great athlete at quarterback, a dynamic running game with 2 different backs if you want to choose it, very good offensive line. And you mentioned it. Was this the Zek coming out game? Well, I mean, he's the 4th option, and yet now he's the guy who got kind of the gold crown to be able to say, hey, thanks for your efforts. You're now in the state championship game.
Yeah, that's the impressive thing about this team is we talk about all the other guys, and Amarion Jackson did make it back to play in this game after missing the last handful of weeks with an injury. Good to see him back on the field. He had a good game, 6 catches, 99 yards, a touchdown. Isaac Jensen was great, 6 catches, 115 yards, and a touchdown.
Watching that game, did you get the sense that Jackson being back in really affected what Westside was wanting to do defensively?
They weren't expecting it from what I know. Like I'm sure they prepared just in case or whatever, but I didn't get any indication that he was going to play until I saw the tweets beforehand of that he was suited up.
I had assumed he was out for the season because that's kind of what I think the general gist was. So it was interesting to see that all occur. And even on Saturday, I had to look back at some of our recap and highlights and such, and I was like, I didn't know he was back in the game, but he had a game. So I do wonder how much that adjusted. But again, clearly it was weapons on weapons for Millard South.
Didn't even get to Dallas guys Anyegbu, 3 catches, 94 yards, 2 touchdowns. So all those guys, all Division I pass catchers. Yet it was Owen Zek who went off 7 catches, 116 yards, and 3 touchdowns. A guy that's been putting the time there, just kind of laying in the weight. He's had some good games here and there, but with so many weapons, Like you're gonna people are gonna talk about all the other guys, and he made his name known for sure with that performance. And now we'll get one more chance to make an impression at Memorial Stadium. But again, just offensively, there's just nothing you can do to take away everything they can do. Nelson Wheeler, 16 carries, 82 yards, a touchdown. Caught a 15-yard pass. So
and that was a light day for him.
Yeah, and they did kind of lean more into Wheeler. Obviously, it's been a pretty even split with Wheeler and Pruka most of the season, but I think this is the first game that they've really been able to, all right, let's just let it rip, because obviously a lot of guys done early in games, pulled early. Maybe they called the dogs off just because of the score or whatever. I think they just kind of kept playing in this one for sure.
Yeah, I mean, not to peel the onion too far, but there's a reason we didn't pick them for a big game chain, because it would have been very difficult to find out, okay, who had the best day out of all of you guys? So something tells me for that Monday night, I'm going to have to be packing like 6 or 7 of them. So we'll figure something out for them. But I think the other impressive part of this too, and you've talked about it before on this show, that as good as the offense is and as talented as they are, that defense is just so good, and they're so overlooked because the offense is as talented as it is.
Tegan Urban leading the way again, 9 tackles, 2 for loss, a sack. As a team, 10 tackles for loss, 4 sacks. They held Tate Jenkins to 50 yards on 17 carries. He did get loose for a 68-yard receiving touchdown, but that's a guy that's been running for 200 yards every single game. He's had a monster season, really talented player, and just wasn't any room for him to run in this one. And Braylon Warren made some plays, but 184 yards, 3 touchdowns, but 8 of 18 passing, so just not enough to keep up with what Millard South was able to do. So, Westside, great team. They got a lot of really good players, but this Millard South team is truly special. Yeah,
and I think it's okay to say that although they're still going to play the game then that Monday night at Memorial Stadium, obviously we'll get to the other semifinal matchup in A. It is okay to say that there have been great seasons in Class A football this year, whether it's individually or through some schools or some uprisers and such, Papio South being one of them, Creighton Prep being another, but that Millard South is clearly above the rest of the field and has been through the rest of the season.
Yeah, no doubt. And after this game, we can kind of go back and start looking at the full season. How does this compare to some of the great teams from the past? But we can wait until
they still got a game to play.
Yep, still got a game to play. The championship, see kind of what happens there, and then we can compare the full body of work. But yeah, I think it's just this collection of talent is really impressive, and I know what people say, but there are a lot of kids in the core of that team, most of them that played together the whole way through, that were Millard South all the way up, and again, just before this, 3 years ago or whatever, they, I can't remember how many wins, but it was, they did not have a great year. Then 4 years ago, whatever, when these guys started. And
we'll even go back to, what was it? I think 4 seasons ago, they were the 1 seed, lost to 16 in Omaha North. And, since then it's kind of been, okay, Millard South's kind of on the rise. You had heard about them when they were sophomores and then juniors. That's when they were like, okay, this is the team to compete with Westside. They took the crown, and now they're not giving it back, is what it looks like.
No doubt. So, like you said, one more game to go, and their opponent is Papio South. Holding on to beat Creighton Prep 24-21. And again, I said it was kind of a split between really good games and blowouts, and we got that in Class A as well with one really competitive game. Basically, they traded scores throughout the first half. Papio South, they've gone for 2 quite a lot this season, didn't get it this time. So 14-13 game at halftime. And Prep led 21-16 going into the fourth quarter. But Logan Arch ripped off a touchdown run early in the fourth quarter, and they converted the 2-point try to take the lead, and that was it for scoring. Defense got it done the rest of the way, kept Prep out of the end zone, and maintained that lead to punch their ticket to the final.
What I think is interesting about that game, too, is, you talked about it obviously with, 2020 hindsight or, foresight, whichever site you want to look at. But it's interesting if you would have said, hey, defense is going to win this game, I feel like leading from Monday through Friday morning, you would have said probably Creighton Prep is going to win the game then. But then Papio South, somehow, some way, they're always overcoming injuries. They're overcoming kind of these outside narratives. And yet here they are again, winning a close game, moving into their first ever state championship in football. And what a way to do it. I mean, this game felt to me like an encapsulation of their entire season in one. They just, luckily nobody got hurt, but if someone would have gotten injured and they still found a way to win, it would have been kind of the perfect bow wrapping of, hey, this was the year we've had, and somehow we've found a way to get through it. Give credit to Creighton Prep as well. And I know, obviously, our alma maters, we'll probably talk about them just a little bit here later on in the show, but man, what a performance just throughout the year. They were completely kind of one of the outsiders looking in at the preseason. They made their way up, they made noise, and they got key wins throughout the year, and they were just a couple of points short of making it to a championship game themselves. What a performance, what a lot of storylines, and I feel very good for the Titans as they move on to the state championship, just with everything that they kind of battled through in the season.
Yeah, no doubt, and just kind of again, they've had different guys at different points step up and be the dude for them, whether it's in the passing game, the running game, defensively, different stretches, but the guy as of late has been Logan Arch. Obviously, we know the Derek Jones storyline, and he did appear in the box score for this one, 2 carries. So happy for him if he was able to get back out there, even if he wasn't a consequential part of the game. But talk about guys, good players missing with injury. But Arch, so last week, 281 on the ground with 4 touchdowns against Millard North. And this week, 17 carries for 197 yards and 2 touchdowns. And it really was just him because the rest of the team combined for 31 yards on 13 carries. So this running game has evolved throughout the season where Derek Jones obviously was the guy early on. Then when he went down, you had Chester Mendoza kind of step up and handle the rushing load there with Arch kind of in a supporting role. And then the last few weeks, it's been Arch that has taken over and put up some monster numbers. And kind of outdueled Angelo Walker, who had a great game in his own right, 30 carries, 161 yards, and 2 touchdowns for Prep. But I think one edge was that Papio South did have a little bit more balance offensively. They were able to do a little bit more in the passing game. And, I mean, Prep had a sophomore that took over midseason, Ben Leslie, completed 7 passes, 68 yards. But they did lean into, instead of the 2 quarterback system, it was mostly Grant Beckenauer. Colin Rayburn only threw 2 passes, completed them both for 16 yards, but Beckenauer 9 of 15 for 134 yards and a 37-yard touchdown to Brady Alderson. So you just kind of had the ability to beat you with the pass and the run. And Beckenauer also had a 25-yard field goal through the 2-point conversion to Elon Washington.
Every point mattered.
Yep, and also 9 tackles, and Arch had 8 tackles and a tackle for loss. So kind of the 2 offensive leaders also getting it done on defense. Cole Lemp, again, led him 12 tackles, 1 for loss, and a fumble recovery. Chase Gable had 15 tackles, 1.5 tackles for loss. So a lot of guys defensively. I mean, with the way that Prep runs the ball, you're going to have to gang tackle. You're going to have a lot of guys involved in the run game, and they certainly had that in this one to get the win. Jake Kearney, 9 carries, 46 yards, and a touchdown for Prep, but wasn't quite enough. The rushing comparison was pretty even. Prep had even a slight edge, but having that ability to beat you both ways was allowed Papio South to come out and get the win in the end.
Then, of course, that championship game, I kept saying Monday. It's Tuesday. It's the last game. I don't know why I kept saying Monday, but I think I just keep going back to the class. Yeah, right?
CNA.
You just kind of want to go alphabetical and figure it out that way. But nope, it is the final game of our high school football season in the state of Nebraska. That is Tuesday, the 7:15 kickoff at Memorial Stadium. It is Millard South, the 4 seed, against the 3 seed Papio South. I don't really know how to approach this, right? Because there's not like a feel good, like appropriate way to do it. I'll say this. There's always a way to win a football game. Yeah. They still have to play for 48 minutes. They're still going to put the ball on the tee, and they're still going to kick it off at 7:15. I don't think that there's any part of Papio South that's not going to show up to Memorial Stadium, and they're going to come with a game plan. And truthfully, if you want to look at it, Papio South, what they had to do their entire season, whether it's rise from the ashes with injuries or play tough defense and run the ball and shorten the game, that is the only way that anyone has slowed down Millard South this season. but the exception is that no one has stopped Millard South this season except for themselves. So the only logical thing that you can think of moving forward is Papillion-La South has got to make this the fastest game in history, and they have to keep the ball out of Jet Tamala's hands, and you have to do it against the top defense in maybe Nebraska high school history.
Yeah, so odds are heavily in favor of Millard South here. Look at it this way: if Papillion-La South pulls this off, it'll be one of the most impressive.
It would be the most impressive
high school,
yes.
in high school sports that I've seen in a long time. So that's how the deck is stacked, or the deck is stacked. Jeez. And it's up to Papillion-La South to see if, like you said, just go give their best shot. They're going to fight. They're going to give everything they've got. I'm sure that staff will have a good game plan to do what they can against Millard South. It's just so much talent on that side of the ball, and we'll see how it plays out on Tuesday.
Right, so more to preview, obviously, for our next classes with Class B, Waverly, Gretna East, and that championship. That one is Monday night at Memorial Stadium, and Waverly did what they've done to Bennington all season, or maybe in different capacities, but that week one to where they ended up last week, it looked completely different if you ask me.
Yeah, I mean, 21-19, where special teams really made a massive difference in that game in week one, it's 38-18 was the final, and it wasn't that close. Waverly was up 38-0 before Bennington scored late in the third quarter. Just a dominant performance, start to finish, for the Vikings there. And starts with Nathan Axman again, another 38 carries for 212 yards and 2 touchdowns, plus a 10-yard reception. So I said throughout the season, said, okay, they kind of a light week for Axman, saving some tread on those tires, because you knew down the stretch you were probably going to need him. Last 2 weeks, 80 carries for 441 yards and 5 touchdowns.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
I wonder how many ice baths he's had to take over the past. Maybe this extra week for him is probably really good, because he might need 80 carries if Waverly does not get some of their passing game going. And that they're just going to mash the Nathan Axman button as many times as they need to in that championship game.
But they did get enough out of the passing game, 9 of 14 for Broxton Tepley for 130 yards and 3 touchdowns. Probably, I was, like I said, kind of checking in on all these games. One of the most impressive plays I saw Friday night was Tepley just throwing it up into the end zone, and Brady Schieffer,
trust your guy.
Between two Badgers, goes up high points, it rips it down. There's ridiculous catch for a touchdown.
That's got to be a classic. No, yes. Like I can't imagine what coach on the sideline was thinking during that throw. But watching it back on film, probably not as great either. So, but they got it done. They took care of business.
Yeah, 2 catches, 2 touchdowns for him. So not a bad guy to throw to in the red zone.
Very good ratio. Then on the opposite side too, so that way we have some time to preview the B game. Gretna East wins the crosstown battle with Gretna High. That was a jam-packed stadium as well. Gretna really came out in full force, but Gretna East somehow, if you would have told me one team scores 55 and wins the game, I probably would have leaned the opposite way, but no, it was the Griffins.
Well, it was 3-3 at the end of the first quarter. So it's like, okay, this is not quite what we expected. And then Gretna East 42-10 in the middle 2 quarters there to turn that game from a kind of grinder into a shootout blowout. And then Gretna got a couple of touchdowns back in the fourth quarter to trim into the final margin a little bit. But it's kind of the 2-man combo of Chase Grow and Connor Sams. I've been doing it all season and did it again. Grow 124 yards and 2 touchdowns passing, and 12 carries for 184 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. And then Sam's 23 carries for 189 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Sam's, if you have a breakdown in the secondary, he is gone. Dude's strong enough to break a tackle in the backfield. And if he gets through to the second level, good luck catching him. He's had some ridiculous long touchdown runs this season.
And you talk about a guy that gets stronger as the game goes on. Every game this season that has happened, he seems to be getting better. I think the stats back that up, too.
Yeah, just like you said, warm down as the game goes on. Eventually, he's going to break one off.
Yep.
And he's going to continue to test you. Like if you, again, just step out of place, you don't have a great shot at bringing him down.
Yep.
So just kind of the quarterback run game there, and Grow doing just enough in the passing game to keep defenses honest. And then you got to figure out how to, all right, is he giving? Is he keeping? How the dual rushing attack there from quarterback and running back, hard to deal with. Seth Craigle had a 42-yard receiving touchdown. So again, just enough in that passing game to keep Gretna off balance. And monster game for Cade Thompson defensively. He had 16 tackles, including 3 for loss, and an 89-yard pick six.
That makes a difference.
Yeah, freshman Mason Muller also had a pick as a team. They had 6 tackles for loss and nine passes defense as a team. And we know Gretna, the only shot they've got is just airing it out with Knudsen and those receivers. So really impressive performance from that Gretna East secondary to make those completions so tough on Gretna and to contest everything. So,
yeah, and I mean, you talk about the difference in a turnover to touchdown. I mean, 89 yards, that means essentially you're assuming a score from one team that you're taking away.
Massive swing.
That changes that final from 55-34 to potentially 48-41, and then we're talking about almost a completely different type of game that Gretna had this crazy, comeback and all this other stuff too, like they have had, but instead you secure your spot in Lincoln. It's the Monday night game. Am I crazy to think for Waverly Gretna East that if you can get the ball more to your running back, you win the game? If it's Axman for Waverly and it's Sams then for Gretna East? Or does it have to come down to which quarterback's going to make more plays because you expect the running backs to have that opportunity?
I think it probably will come down to that. Is again who can be more versatile, who can stress the defense in more ways. You look at kind of what these two teams have accomplished. Obviously, Waverly 12-0, Gretna East 11-1. The only losses to Bennington. Waverly 9 wins against playoff teams, and Gretna East went 8-1. So pretty similar schedule there. Just kind of break down the two teams, and it is kind of a little bit edge to Waverly in just the balance. But 193 yards a game, 5.5 a carry, 29 touchdowns. Rushing for Waverly, 192 passing yards a game, 9.5 per attempt, over almost 64% completion with 26 touchdowns and 8 picks through the year, averaging 38 points a game, giving up just under 15.5. For Gretna East, that's almost 280 yards a game on the ground, almost 8.5 a carry, 45 touchdowns, 162 almost passing yards a game. But also they had that stretch there where Grow was out and they had a sophomore in there, and he was a little bit more of a passing threat. So skews the numbers a little bit, but 60% completion, 19 touchdowns, and 5 picks. Gretna East has outscored teams 41 to just under 22 a game. So that's just kind of tail of the tape there with some of the numbers. Gretna East has had a really impressive season, and it wasn't because they only beat up on bad teams.
Right.
Like they went 8-1 against playoff teams as well, played just as many as Waverly did. So,
but it is funny that it's almost like a mental narrative that we have because we've seen Waverly play in a lot of these game of the weeks and the biggest games, and it was the Waverly Norris game. But Gretna East was always on the outside of that conversation, and yet here they are, the last game of the year.
They're in that conference too.
Yeah,
and they got to play some of those same teams. And Waverly just the dominant showing last week, the show they put on, just their ability to beat you both ways. I think you definitely have to favor Waverly heading into this one. But, I mean, again, Sam's can break one off at any point, and that
they don't feel like the underdog, I'm sure.
In it for sure.
I'm sure they love the underdog mentality for Gretna East, but they probably don't feel that way. And I think that's then that next layer of the conversation, too, is, okay, if this is going to swing on a turnover or a big defensive play, or if it's a fake punt or field goal, whatever the case is, I don't know which side you lean on. I've seen Waverly. I've also seen Gretna East in bits and pieces, not for a full game. But something about Waverly that they have really tried to deal with the devil a couple of times and putting the ball on the ground, throwing it up, doing some crazy stuff.
Some kicking concerns.
But then they've also had a walk-off field goal with their JV kicker. You don't really know which way to go. I will say this. How fun is it that we kind of get some fresh names and faces and programs into the Class B title? Yeah,
it's been a lot of the same teams the last few years. Obviously, Bennington had their dominant run. You had Scott in there as well. So getting 2 new teams in here, especially Gretna East, building towards this at school opened a few years ago. And they were one where it was like, okay, look out, they got a returning quarterback. They've got an Air Force commit at running back. There's some pieces here for Gretna East, but I don't think any of us expected them to be here when we started previewing this season.
Right.
So great job by that coaching staff and all those players to develop throughout the season. And again, missing, had a few weeks there with their quarterback sidelined, and a sophomore stepped up and kept the team afloat and performed at a really high level. So it wasn't like they didn't have to deal with adversity this season. So impressive job by Gretna East to get here, but Waverly, this is kind of what they've been building last few years. There have been several different iterations of this Waverly, and that's the most impressive thing I think about Coach Manstead and his staff over the years is how well they've adjusted their personnel. We've seen them air it out. We've seen them quarterback run option type of stuff. Like no matter what their talent is, they've adjusted to kind of maximize what they have. And this, I think, is probably the most balanced team that we've seen during the stretch of Waverly being good. And so no surprise to see them here in the final game.
What is funny about just this to wrap up kind of the Class B playoff bracket, we do get chalk, right? It's 1 versus 2.
Yeah.
I'm not sure many people would have said, it's going to be 1 versus 2 when we started this a couple of weeks ago. And it'll be very funny in a decade when we look back and be like, the 2025 Class B title, that was 1 versus 2. Wasn't that big of a deal. Yeah. There were so many good teams and a couple of injuries away from having completely different narratives and games and matchups that this was a very fun year in Class B. And I'm very excited to hopefully it wraps up in the perfect way, too, on Monday night.
Yes, no doubt. That's like you said, Class B has been probably the most competitive, fun, interesting season. I think of the ones that we've talked about pretty heavily here, at least in the 11-man ranks. So I'm hoping that we get kind of a fitting championship game to cap a wild season.
Absolutely. Okay, so one of the best games of the weekend last weekend was not Wahoo Ashland-Greenwood. It was on the opposite side of the bracket.
You were there, Mr. Sidney.
America's sweetheart, the Sidney Red Raiders, traveling 400-plus miles to get to Columbus Lakeview in Central Time.
Didn't look good at halftime.
28-13, or 24-13, sorry, and my heart was breaking. Yeah. I did not feel good standing on the sideline. I was thinking of ways to try to spin it for a positive for me. Wasn't working. But then Cale Kaiser and Doty and Reese Dorsey found a way, and also I should add Ben Monheiser as well in there too. They had impact plays in the second half to push Sidney to their first ever state championship game in football, and they did it on a second half comeback. And again, I don't want to downplay a lot of the impacts of other players that maybe don't have the same recruiting recognition or some of the big names or the statistics behind them from the season that was. But the biggest names made the biggest plays for Sidney, and that's what pushed them over the top, especially in a game when they really didn't play all that well, and they maybe got away with a couple of things but found a way to win.
How about this for brother synergy here? Kean Kaiser, 4 catches, 41 yards, a touchdown, 11 tackles, and a sack. Cale Kaiser, 2 catches, 54 yards, a touchdown, 11 tackles, and a sack.
Pretty good.
So, receiving touchdown, 11 tackles, and a sack for each of the Kaiser brothers. And again, making some of those plays in the biggest moments. Doty, 118 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 53 yards rushing.
Also had that 2-point conversion to Cale, too. That was really big. Obviously put them a different game because Lakeview drives down the field. And if you're not up 4, they just kick the field goal, and we might still be out there at Lakeview.
Yeah.
But
so, it's huge plays, good decisions by the Sidney coaching staff there to manage that comeback. Like 17-7 at halftime. Then what you said, what was it, 24-13 before they made the plays they needed to surge ahead there in the fourth quarter. Dorsey, 2 touchdowns on the ground, over 100 yards from scrimmage. So it's been that group that Doty, Dorsey, the Kaisers, like those guys have been the guys all season long, and they made the plays in the biggest moments, like you said.
In that first half, Sidney only had, I think, 68 total yards. They'd scored in the opening possession because a fumble on the kickoff return from Lakeview set them up in short distance. They got a touchdown on short field, couldn't move the ball then after that. I think they ended up pretty good there in the second half after. But Lakeview was dicing them up and taking advantage of one-on-one defensive opportunities. And when you peek ahead to next week, Wahoo's going to have plenty of those opportunities too. I'm not going to make any bones about this one. We talked about kind of the Class A preview in that sense, but Sidney making this moment theirs. Lakeview performed up to snuff. There was a great battle in between, and both these teams deserved to win. Sidney just came out on top.
Yep. And again, Lakeview, great season. They kind of were there all season long, took care of business, and just came down to Sidney got the touchdown they needed, got the stop they needed, and it would have been cool to see just that continue going back and forth. Right. But good job by Sidney to surge ahead. Wahoo, kind of similar to the Class A game, almost even to the final score, 61-21 against Ashland-Greenwood.
And I think a lot of people pointed to that Ashland-Greenwood, hey, if someone's going to try to knock down Wahoo, it's probably Ashland-Greenwood.
Especially after having seen them so early in the season, so like it wasn't going to be a surprise what they were going to run through. They've already seen it before. It was 21-14 in the second quarter, and then 40-0 Wahoo run to before a late Ashland-Greenwood touchdown. So again, very similar to the Class A game where I think Ashland-Greenwood made some plays, they did some stuff, they kind of went toe-to-toe with them early, and then Wahoo's talent just won out. So, yeah. Kit Brigham, some things to discuss. 16 carries, 253 yards, 4 touchdowns, plus 3 catches for 61 yards, a touchdown, a 33-yard kickoff return, a 22-yard punt return, 2 tackles, and an interception on defense. So all 3 phases of the game, he made a big impact. And in the process, he broke the C1 career scoring record. Eli Larson had that at 604. He broke the C1 career touchdown record. Larson had that at 100. He tied the 11-man season touchdown record. Jane Bradley, 52. Tied the C1 career rushing touchdown record. Trevor Nicholson at 88. And so for his career, he's sitting at 417 carries for 5,046 yards. Went over that 5,000 mark. 88 touchdowns, and just fantastic season for him. He has 4 return touchdowns, 12 receiving touchdowns, 632 total points, 104 total touchdowns. So, and he's got one more game to add to that ridiculous resume there.
If he adds to it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be a bit homer right now. No big deal.
Listen,
I know what it looks like. I know what the conversation is. I've seen Wahoo. I've seen Sidney twice now. It will take, like we mentioned with the Columbus-Lakeview game, Sidney's best players are going to have to make their best plays of their entire season in that game early on Tuesday morning at Memorial Stadium for them to have a chance to be able to pull off an upset. And again, I've said this a couple of times on different channels and on Hurrdat Sports Live on Friday morning as well. The gap between Millard South and the rest of A was pretty prevalent all season. We did not give Wahoo that same credit. They deserve that same credit. No. And they are just as talented. They have multiple weapons. It is the Kit Brigham show, much like it's the Jet Tamala show for Millard South.
But Jace Kaminsky in this game, 6 of 8, 132 yards, 2 touchdowns, plus 2 touchdowns rushing.
Yeah.
So like there's enough balance there that, you load up on Brigham as best as you possibly can. They are very capable of hitting you over the top. And in this, Eli Shada, 50-yard receiving touchdown.
Yep.
He also had 10 tackles and a sack on defense. Big, strong kid there. Tough matchup. So, Wahoo, defensively, they've been so tough all season long. You kind of break it down. Wahoo, they had 8 wins against playoff teams overall this season. Just under 53 points a game, giving up just under 10 a game. And Sidney's only played 5 playoff teams, beat them all.
And that's more just the schedule that you have.
And where they're located.
Yep.
Like
and
they didn't get a chance to.
It's not like the odds makers and schedule makers did something to Sidney. No, that's just how it's just how it works out. And they're, again, not in Class B, so they didn't have to play Scottsbluff. They didn't play Gearing. They didn't go out and try to travel to North Platte or anything like that. They're limited to who they had to play. Wahoo's been through the gauntlet. They are the favorite. They should be the favorite. But you never know.
Sidney's given up 7.8 points a game this season. They gave up 94 points all season long. Only 35.5 per game for them. But that's kind of the way they play. They just run, grind out the clock, keep that thing rolling, maintain possession, and that's the only shot they've got in this. They have got to extend drives. You can't give up. You can't go 3 and out, give up a touchdown drive to them, and then go 3 and out quick and give up a long breakdown. Then the defense has to get back out there because we know Wahoo's quick strike ability. Like the offense has to sustain drives to give their defense a chance to rest, and especially. Tough thing is a lot of guys playing both ways too.
Yes.
So they're going to have to find a way to manage that and find a way to keep guys fresh enough to make plays because, again, with the amount of times that you're going to have to gang tackle every time it's going to be a war getting Brigham down to the ground. So we'll have to see if Sidney can kind of, again, maintain the ball. They can make some big plays on third downs to extend drives knowing that probably going to be they're going to have to make some passes, some plays through the air, especially second, third down, because we know how strong Wahoo is against the running game.
Yep, you have to ask for almost a perfect game, and even if you do that, it still might not be enough. The biggest thing for me is Wahoo cannot have the big plays, and you have to get big plays, because if Wahoo goes down the field and you make him kick a field goal, that is a win. But if then you have to, try to chuck the ball downfield and see if you can get a chunk penalty, or try to see if you can get a big play with one of the Kaisers, or if you've got a receiver that you like Kyle Jaggers that's out there, and see if you can get a one-on-one matchup and see if you can win one of those, you're going to have to take chances, because I think shortening this game actually does Wahoo more favors than anything, because they're going to have their big moments. Sidney's going to have to survive them. Not the Sidney hour. I don't want to make it the Sidney hour by any means, but
the chance they got. Kean Kaiser, the Iowa State commit, he's got to be the best player on the field.
Yes.
That's the only.
I completely agree.
Because
Kale's really good, too.
Defensively, he's going to have to be the guy that is getting to the ball, is getting Brigham to the ground. We know how talented is, what the monster season he's had, and how well that Wahoo team fits around him with that offensive line, carving out rushing game, and then defensively kind of plugging things up as well. So going to need to have a monster game for Kaiser here to close out his Sidney career.
Yep. Just really hoping that Kip and Wahoo didn't hear anything that I said. But I do not provide bulletin board material by any means. All right, so on to C2.
Knowing Kip, I think he's probably doesn't need anything to put a chip on his shoulder.
Like Kip, I'm a UNK guy. You're a UNK guy. Just be nice to me. Listen, you'll be at my alma mater in 8 months. We can all be friends then. But on Tuesday, we'll see. It's Weymouth Field East. All right, on to C2. What an interesting matchup we've got. And again, C2 has been all over the place this season. Do you want to start at the top with GICC Ord? That felt like a game that really you could flip a coin and go either way. I'll say the final surprised me a little bit. I thought Ord would be able to kind of keep pace a bit more. But nonetheless, we're going to see Grayson Sack, Jack Alberts, and then Jeff Ashby, who has state championship experience as head coach in GICC.
Yeah, and we talked about the run that Ord had been on recently, again, dropping those games early on and then running off a big winning streak, just running the ball all over the place. And GSC, meanwhile, they were just kind of plugging along, taking care of business throughout the season. Went 11-1 this year, including this playoff win. But Grayson Sack, just fantastic player, ability to impact the game in multiple ways. The difference, they outscored him 10-0 in the second quarter. Beyond that, they matched each other. So that was 10-point game, 10-point quarter. That was the difference in the game for that 23-13 final. But Sack, 12 of 17 for 260 yards and 2 touchdowns, plus 68 yards on the ground rushing. Jackson Ganglish had a rushing touchdown. As a team, they ran it 51 times for 148 yards and 1 touchdown. So, it wasn't easy. Ord held them to 2.9 yards a carry, but Sack's ability to make plays through the air.
Yep.
Connor Haney, 5 catches, 99 yards, a touchdown, and Graham Stava, 4 catches, 86 yards, and a touchdown. And that was the difference of the game because Jordan Williams, 2 of 9 for 0 yards and a pick. He ran the ball 17 yards for 103, or 17 times for 103 yards and a touchdown. Hayden Nelson went over 100 yards as well. As a team, they ran it 43 times for 244 yards and 2 touchdowns, 5.7 a carry. So they dominated in the run game both ways, but GSC's ability to make plays through the air was enough to overcome that. And Ganglish had a big game defensively, 14 tackles, including 2 for loss. Haney had an interception on defense as well. GICC just, again, as I look at these teams, the teams with the best balance in 11-man give you the best chance, because if team takes something away, you've got an option to get them another way. Yep. And as opposed to going all in on we're just going to run. If that's not working out, do you have guys that can make the plays? And that's what happened in GICC where, again, that passing attack won them the game. And
then you look on the opposite side where it's Kearney Catholic, Bishop Neumann.
Run.
Yeah, it was all run. And you went from a team last year with Bishop Neumann that had steady, secure names, guys that you knew, right? Like it was the Connor Booth show, and you got a long-time standing coach. Completely new Bishop Neumann team in case anyone hasn't been paying attention, but yet philosophy stays the same, and they handle business against Kearney Catholic at home. Big day for the community of Wahoo, of course, but the biggest part was that Kearney Catholic just could not get past really the 20-yard line, and they could not get into the end zone as per the shutout.
106 total yards Neumann gave up. 105 yards passing, 55 yards rushing with a turnover. And they also blocked a punt, had 3 sacks. So just a dominant showing for that Bishop Neumann defense. And like you said, last year, I mean, their defense was good enough to kind of keep them in games and get them to that point, but Booth was the guy that carried them offensively all season. He kind of did everything for that team. He's gone, but they found ways to, in the aggregate, replace what Booth did with a kind of more versatile rushing attack with multiple guys taking a part in that. Bo Fuyon at quarterback doing just a little bit rushing there. But Jack Van Slyke and Landon Sun, both over 1,000 yards rushing this season. And Van Slyke was the dude in this one. 15 carries, 145 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Fuyon and Sun each had a touchdown as well. But again, the shutout, this was a defense. The defense was the story of this game, and Bishop Neumann punched their ticket back to the final because of what they did on that end of the field. And then
I've just by my calculation and talking with one of my cohorts back in KGFW at Kearney with Alex Hammocky, 3 turnover on downs for Kearney Catholic, 2 of them in the first half, a blocked punt by Bishop Neumann, and then also the interception. I mean, that is a lot of extra possessions given to the Cavs that makes a big difference. I mean, in that contest too. I had heard all season that Kearney Catholic was a bit beat up and everything, but don't get this twisted anyway. It's not Kearney Catholic played bad. Bishop Neumann just played that good.
Without a doubt. So now we got battle of 11-1 teams, the 2 and the 4 seed in the C2 final.
And I think if you look at this one, and I know you've got maybe the stats to show it too, I'm interested to see what the playoff teams and all that calculation looked at. This is a defensive game. And I think more than maybe any of the other state championship games we'll talk about or have talked about, this is the most defensive game we'll see. If this gets over 40 points total, I would actually be very, very surprised.
Yeah. Neumann 8-1 against playoff teams. They've averaged 32.3 points a game, giving up just 14.4. GICC 6-1 against playoff teams, 38.3 points a game, giving up 8.2. So again, the schedule wasn't quite as tough as what Neumann faced, but defensively, like you said, GICC has been really stout this season to complement what Sack does as kind of the dual threat guy at quarterback for them. Neumann 265 yards per game on the ground, 7 a carry. 38 touchdowns. They've just under 90 yards passing per game, 55% completion, 10 touchdowns, 3 picks. So they're not going to do much in the passing game. They're just going to pound it and then try to catch you slipping there with some timely passing. But like I said, both Van Slyke and Sun both over 1,000 yards on the ground, plus Fuyon. Contributed in the quarterback run game, so that team. It's going to be a contrast of styles here because they're going to run as much as they possibly can. GICC just under 200 rushing yards per game, 6 a carry, so very solid there. 38 touchdowns, but also 182 yards passing a game at over 10 yards per attempt. 62% completion, 21 touchdowns, 6 picks. Sack obviously kind of leading the way there, but Jack Alberts, like you mentioned, is a big contributor for them on the ground. So we've got, again, one team they're going to run it versus a team that's much more balanced and can beat you both ways. And then 2 stout defenses as well.
And I think if you look at in C2 just across the entirety of the resumes for both sides, maybe the big playability is there a little bit more for GICC because of some of the teams that they have played. I know that they had played Hershey earlier this year on like a Thursday night, and they played a couple of other teams that are 1-2 wins that they've been able to break open those bigger plays. But Bishop Neumann is as solid a team as you're going to see. I think it's a great matchup and maybe is, along with B, one of those closer games that we're kind of expecting to maybe go down to the wire at Memorial.
Yeah, so it's kind of been alternating the heavy favorite versus could be either team here. Heavy favorite could be either team here. Yep. Maybe not necessarily the teams that you expected to be there when the season started, but I think that makes it more fun.
For sure. All right, so into the 8-man action now, and I know this is more my forte. Yeah. I don't have all the stats and everything. I should have came as prepared as you are. Yeah. You just kind of blew me out of the water.
That's what I'm here for. I got to contribute something.
Well, I appreciate that. Okay, so into the D1 football postseason semifinals. Big surprise. Shelby-Rising City, the number 1 team, what I presumed was going to be a rematch from our Week 4 battle. Turns out not.
Hard to win when you score 8 points.
Crofton gets the win 28-8. And just to recap, in case you haven't been following what Crofton's done this postseason, first round 90-20 win over Kimball. They take down Johnson Brock 88-56. Then they win over Hemmingford 60-12, and then win 28-8. So by law of average, their number keeps going down. But just to kind of reiterate this as well, again, if you haven't been following Crofton, week 1, they score 76 points in a 4-overtime loss against Wynot. Then they then go on to win 68-15. They score 38 points in a win over Plainview. They fall to Bloomfield, only scoring 18. After that, their lowest score total was 42 points against Boyd County on October 17th. They can score, and they're gonna score. It's very impressive what they've been able to do so far this year.
And yet, here we are in the final, winning by giving up 8 points against the number 1 seed. And Tyson Jackson, fantastic game, 26 carries, 184 yards, 2 touchdowns, converted a 2-point attempt. Also had 10 tackles on defense. Preston Foxhoven had a 33-yard passing touchdown and also went over 100 yards on the ground and scored as well, plus a 2-point conversion and an interception on defense. And they held Logan Lindsley to 1 completion to his team, 1 completion to the other team. 1 of 5 passing for 2 yards plus an interception. So, I mean, the rushing, it was 7.5 a carry for Crofton versus just 4.7 a carry for Shelby-Rising City. Like, Shelby-Rising City was able to run it enough to maybe give themselves a chance, but Crofton just didn't let them in the end zone. And again, for a team that's been putting up massive point totals, for them to win with defense probably has that coaching staff feeling good about where they're at heading into the final. And
SRC loves to play with their defense too, and they want to set up the big plays in passing. Just never got an opportunity to there. And also Crofton win at SRC. Not an easy thing to do either. On the opposite side of the bracket, defending champ Sandy Creek remains in and looks to see if they can go back-to-back. They win 53-22 over Plainview. Pirates were kind of the up-and-coming team on that side of the bracket. Sandy Creek just took care of business, and again, offense is going to be at a prevalent like it was last year in that championship game.
Obviously, we know Ethan Shaw was Mr. Do-Everything for that team last year, but Cam Sealey filling in for him has been a fantastic.
So good.
Had probably the best single performance of the weekend. He 17 of 22 for 220 yards and 2 touchdowns passing, plus 25 carries for 217 yards and 5 touchdowns rushing. Added 7 tackles on defense as well. So 7 total touchdowns he accounted for. 200. Yeah, he almost 450 yards from scrimmage of offense. Had touchdowns to Wes Beltoff and Logan Tomke. So just fantastic performance by Sealey, and that's something that Plainview just couldn't keep up for. They 12 of 28 passing for 177 yards, 2 interceptions, and 8 passes defense by 8 different players. So again, another situation where you had that whole defense just swarming the passing attack there. I mean, Sandy Creek, 7.2 yards a carry, 260 yards to Plainview was only able to manage 139 yards under 5 carries. So, 53-22 is the final there. Just overall impressive performance by Sandy Creek and kind of a hero performance by Sealey, putting the team on his back. So back-to-back years of them finding pretty darn good ones there to run the show. Yeah,
it must be something water out there in Fairfield. I mean, they've got quarterbacks growing on trees that can run, tackle, do everything. Then Sandy Creek, just through their season, especially in their last few games, defense has really stepped up too. In their postseason games, they've allowed 14, 6, 6, and then 22 against Plainview. So it's not necessarily going to be a defensive showdown. It's probably going to be how do you slow down or stop the offense once or twice on the opposite side for both teams, right? Because if Crofton's going to try to score 88 like they had earlier this postseason, Sandy Creek can probably match that. So we're going to have a high-scoring affair there to start some of the fun action at Memorial.
Yep, first game of the state finals there at Memorial Stadium, 10:15 on Monday.
Really good way to do it, too, because you wake everybody up, and there's going to be a lot of points in there. Exactly. Luckily, they're not shooting fireworks, or else they would run out before that game wrapped up. Okay, so into the Class D2 postseason. I was here for the second half. St. Mary's takes down number 1 seed Howells Dodge, and let me be perfectly clear and honest, Gage Hedstrom, I am so sorry. I said that Ethan Latta was the best player in 8-man football. Gage, you are the best player in 8-man football. He accounted for 8 touchdowns in the game by himself. That included a pick 6. He also injured his knee in this contest, wrapped up the knee, and then after every touchdown would tap the knee to remind people, hey, I'm doing this with one leg. He was an incredible, incredible player. He also got another interception in that contest, I believe, like late in the second half, where he was able to just high point a ball, bring it down. Everything that Gage did was because Howell's Dodge was trying to move away from him and try to say, hey, how can we mitigate him? We're going to one-on-one on the outside.
Did it work?
Nothing you could do. He was an efficient passer. He's an electric runner. And with the ball in his hands, it's going to be tough for anyone from the opposite side for Wynot to try to bring him down. It's got to be a team effort. But Hedstrom's not alone. He's got a lot of great receivers on that roster, too. They are an excellent, excellent team, and they are definitely not, much like Millard South, a regular 4 seed that we see get through the postseason.
Now, Hedstrom, 120 yards and 2 touchdowns passing, 25 carries for 328 yards and 5 touchdowns rushing.
Really good.
10 tackles. Talked about the interception, forced fumble as well. Passed, like he just did everything in that game. So, yeah, it's either him or Sealey. Obviously, in 11 or in 8-man football, those guys kind of have to do everything just by nature.
Oh, yeah.
Because you got 8 guys out there. Yeah, just especially for getting it through the – hopefully the few extra days here allows them to get healthy as possible because I want to see everybody at their best in the championship.
I know Coach Tony Allen was talking with the team after that. He just said, hey, listen, we're going to get on that bus and we are taking some time off because we are beat up. Yeah. So if that does become a lingering issue, a team like Wynot, who took down the number 1 team from last year, I should say, and the defending champion in Central Valley, they can take advantage of something like that. We talked about what Wynot and Crofton did in week 1, where it's a 4 overtime blast. Wynot has been one of the more steady teams throughout this postseason so far. They went over they went over Mullen in that second round, 64-13, and then 43-12. Geez, I'm all over the place. They beat Hitchcock County 43-12, and then beat Central Valley 45-28 in a not easy place to play at Woolback. That's an impressive, maybe the most impressive streak of wins that you can find in the 8-man postseason, and Wynot's going to be there, and if they're healthier, that might be the difference maker against St. Mary's.
Yeah, Central Valley held them to just over 3 yards a carry on the ground, only 114 yards. They did get 3 touchdowns, 2 of them all by Lane Himes. But in the passing game and the defense carried them in this game. Defensively, Wynot had 3 fumble recoveries, 2 interceptions, and they blocked 2 punts. Offensively, Devin Brummer, 15-22 for 249 yards and 3 touchdowns passing. Braylon Hands had a lot of that passing yardage there, 9 catches, 159 yards, 3 touchdowns, plus a pick on defense. Cotner Cook had a kickoff return touchdown and a pick on defense. So, again, it was an impressive job by Wynot, where Central Valley wasn't going to let them run the ball effectively, but they still found a way to dominate the game in every other facet. And again, that's the sign of a great team where you can win in multiple ways.
What a fall for Wynot. I mean, regardless of what happens, they're in that championship game. You get volleyball title, you get a football team in there. I wonder how basketball season might go for them. Probably pretty good. Yeah.
So we get the 4 seed versus the 6 seed in the afternoon game on Monday. St. Mary's is 12-0, Wynot 11-1. So again, another case where I don't know that these probably were the 2 teams that you would have picked heading in. Even
not at all. Nope.
Forget beginning of the season, heading into the playoffs even. But it's always fun when you get some prize runs and teams that really put it together at the biggest moments.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's going to be maybe the opposite of that D1 game. I think everyone is going to expect a lot of points and some high-flying affairs. I think points might be at a bit more exclusive in this one because we don't know what St. Mary's will beat. Now, if they come out, Hedstrom's completely healthy, the receivers are all good to go, and everyone's kind of cleared bill of health, that kind of changes the dynamic because then Wynot's going to have to win in a track race and see if they can keep up. But Wynot has a way to grind out games and find a way to make it an impressive, either a high-scoring affair if they need to play defense. It's a really good dynamic matchup, and out of all the classes, D1 and D2 are a lot of fun to look at, and unlike a couple of other years, I don't know if we have like the big names. We have the Cam Sealey, we have the Gage Hedstrom, we have a couple of other guys, but it feels like we've got really good teams on the opposite side that can maybe keep up with those big names too. So looking forward to seeing what we get in Lincoln for 8-man.
Yep. And finally, the one that will start everything off on Friday at
right.
UNK is the D6 final. It'll be Garden County 12-0 against Southwest 12-0.
That's right.
The 1 and the 3 seed. Both teams impressive wins in the semifinals. Garden County beat Stewart 44-28. Cole Fornander 4 or 5 for 31 yards, plus 11 carries for 115 yards and 3 touchdowns rushing, plus 9 tackles. Wilsey Lobner 17 carries, 169 yards, a touchdown, a 10-yard reception, 11 tackles, and a pick. And then Kyan Kramer 13 carries for 86 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 catches for 20 yards, and 7 tackles. So a lot of different guys stepping up and making big plays, carrying the load for Garden County in that one.
Yeah, they definitely have the best team. That's just overall. They've got the most talent probably across, and also 6-man's really big. They're also extremely healthy. That makes a huge difference. Cade Romfer Stewart had been banged up all year. He had been trying to get them back in. They were the defending champ, not so much anymore. You get 2 teams with a clean bill of health, and I think that's really fun, especially when we get talking about Southwest.
Yeah, Southwest 35-0, another shutout over Red Cloud. And Houston Billard, numbers were, I think, a little messed up for this one, so not necessarily going to read off what it had. Missing some points there, some touchdowns that were unaccounted for. But Houston Billard had a monster game again, like he's been
per usual.
Yeah, carrying the load all season. Derek Kelly went over 100 yards receiving, had a couple of touchdowns there. So those two kind of led the way for Southwest. And so, yeah, we get Garden County, maybe, like you said, the most complete team versus Southwest.
The best player, I'll say it, the best
Billard.
player in 6-man football. Yeah. I mean, it's going to be a tall task there at UNK for Garden County because they have been playing some of the best teams. They went unbeaten by playing some of the best teams in our top 10, in postseason teams, however you want to look at it. They went out and sought out some of the best teams, went out and played them, even traveling for as far west as they have to go to be able to meet these teams in the middle. Southwest was just as impressive, playing a lot of these same kind of pool of teams too. I don't really know which way to lean. 6-man's always a fun one to watch, especially in that championship game, because the wrong turnover or a wrong big play to go the opposite direction opens up the field completely on both sides. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and I don't really even know which way I lean on that one, I'll be honest. But I always say this, when you're in a state championship game, best player on the field has to make the best plays, and there's one guy in 6-man, that's Southwest Houston Billard. The ball's in his hands at the end of the game. I'll probably rely right there with the Rough Riders.
All right, there you heard it.
I like to lay it on the table, just see what I got, right? I'll be at the 6-man championships games. We will be at all of the games at Memorial Stadium as well. I mean, no Creighton basketball on like a Monday or Tuesday afternoon, right? Not at home.
Yeah. There's always stuff going on, but right. Easy to post up all day there in the press box and kind of monitor what I need to while also focusing in on the football, because that's what's most important on those days.
100%. We love football as the season wraps up. What does that mean? Only 6 games remaining, right? 6 classes? 8? No. How many classes are there?
7.
Jeez. I'm really bad at this math thing.
Small town.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Okay,
town,
you know what? Sydney.
Small town ball guy forgetting the 6-man.
No, I saw 6, and then I thought 6. That's on me. All right, so 7 championship games remain in our high school football season. Jacob, we appreciate it. Thanks for doing all that you do and all the stats. I don't know. Do you have shout-outs that you need to give? Or you
we shout out everybody. Yeah.
Long episode. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. Make sure you're following Hurrdat Sports and NEB Preps on all of our channels for all the coverage you need for Friday through Tuesday. State championships are finally here, and this has been Nebraska Preps Postgame.
A Hurrdat Sports Network production.